I save by playing badly. Chapter 170 Bright Moon Arrow, Full Bow. In the forbidden area of the Yuqing sect, there are strange forbidden spells and all kinds of talismans that make your scalp tingle when you look around. Ming Shun kicked him in disgust. Rang, move me a place. The two sat on the ground together. Zhu Yu was not annoyed when he saw this. Yi Qiao looked enthusiastically at the other sects. Do you want to sit together? The members of Zhangjianzong looked at the four of Changmingzong more leisurely than the other in silence, without the slightest hint of anxiety. Is this really taking control of the forbidden area? Chu Xingji said indignantly, I think it is the group of vicious guys from the 8 great families who are slandering us who are kind and innocent. Oh no, our senior brother. In a state of suppressing each other, the Yi family can secure the number position of the 8 families because of Yi Qing'an. They attach great importance to the cultivation of the next generation, making them unable to turn over completely. If you think about it, it will be impossible for a while. It doesn't matter that Zhou Xingyun's family doesn't mention it, let alone help, and even thinks that he hinders the development of their Zhou family's direct line. To sum up, jailbreaking is the fastest way. Yi Qiao found a place where the old god was present and sat down. In a place like a forbidden place, if one person is locked up, one may feel fear and shame, but a group of people will only be happy when locked up. Zhu Yu miraculously discovered that as long as she stayed with Yi Qiao and the others, no matter how dangerous the situation was, she would not be afraid. Do you have any ideas about the moon arrow? Yi Qiao, what else do you want? She changed her steps, started to direct on the spot, and started pointing at a group of personal disciples. Remove the forbidden area, step on the talisman. Ah, yes, that's it. How come it is so wicked? She doesn't believe it will just sit and wait to die. The Qingfeng sword has spirits, so the moon arrow, the treasure of the Yuqing sect, must also be the same. Anyway, idle is idle. Yi Qiao just took this opportunity to take a good look at Yue Qingzong's formations, broke through several low-level formations with fingertips, and led people inside. It is said that the forbidden area is getting closer, more dangerous. Together with Zongmengwen with high force value, the fun is that they don't have to do it themselves. Yi Qiao's method has always been out of tune and immoral, but it's enough to be easy to use. Accompanied by the arrival of the two sects, Jian Ling didn't pay much attention at first, until he watched this group of people, swaggering with the second uncle as soon as they came in, and jumped up and down under the leadership of a little girl, turning the originally gloomy forbidden to make a miasma. Seeing that the arrow spirit was quite calm, Yi Qiao took out a few bombs and threw them in. Forbidden place, a place for self-introspection. According to the thinking logic of normal people, after entering, you will only feel shame, self-blame and fear, instead of blowing it up. Arrow spirit is going crazy. The world kisses her so badly that she's going to blow it up. Which sect's personal inheritance? Such a weird personality. With the deepening of the destruction, the few members of Zhangjianzong seemed to gradually get the joy of doing whatever they wanted, swept the surrounding buildings with their swords, and gradually lost themselves in playing. Zhu Yu reminded softly, come on. The Cultivation Realm Demolition Team lived up to its name, and the entire forbidden area became dilapidated. I don't know who smashed a big hole, which alarmed the formation. A strange seal was broken, and the shadow of the rumored moon arrow appeared. Come out. The hazy shadow was solidified. The arrow spirit drew the bow, squinted and pointed at the group of uninvited guests who came in, and instantly understood what they wanted to do. Sneered. You can hide it, come see me again. Zhu Yu said, that's the spirit of Mingyu arrow. It's just a phantom, very weak. If it is held by someone, it will disperse. If so, it is a bright moon arrow. A phantom is enough for all of them to eat a pot. Dozens of arrows pierced through the wind, a deep crack was left where he was originally standing. Zhu Yu turned sideways, hid, and squinted. Its location is too tricky. We have to go up and get it. Who will get it? Throw Yi Qiao up. Her ability to dodge is better than others. Zhu Yu sent Chu Exingji up. In contrast, Chu Exingji grabbed Yi Qiao and threw her to the top, almost. Just barely enough. The two arrows shot down mercilessly again. Yi Qiao's breathing was stagnant. She adjusted her body position, tapped her toes in the void, and then borrowed her strength to go up the wall without falling down. Thanks to the guidance of thousands of spiritual swords in the sword cave, Yi Qiao dodged several arrows by relying on her body skills. The arrow was icy cold, and it was greeting the gate of life every time. Yi Qiao practiced her speed and kept trying to get closer. She almost reached it. One more time. Yi Qiao charged up her toes, and landed a slam on the shadow's abdomen, scattered and quickly gathered. She quickly grabbed the bow and arrow, and it dissipated on her fingertips before she was happy. Turning his head, he found that the moon arrow appeared in another direction, and it was still a phantom. She squinted. The anger came out. Take out the invisible gentleman. A few black mist condense and turn into a chain to seal its position. You like to hide, don't you? A few spirit swords rushed up to encircle them. There were wolves in front and tigers behind. Arrow Spirit retreated in a hurry. It was very angry when it saw these spirit swords. Where is its backbone? With so many spirit swords, they actually acted as lackeys of a human being. Seeing that Arrow Spirit was offended, Zhu Yu frowned. Try another person with it. Mingyu Arrow is a well-known spiritual weapon with a weird personality. If you want to get it, you must first find a suitable person to talk to it. Arrow Spirit said coldly. No. I want her. Don't think it didn't hear anyone's suggestion to make the forbidden area look like this. Yi Qiao smiled, and said in a low tone, I didn't expect you to love me so deeply. Although my sexual orientation is correct, but if you really like me so much, you can consider it. Arrow Spirit was successfully split by Qi. Swish swish a few arrows with their own tracking effect, chasing after her. Seeing it chasing after Yi Qiao, she dodged several bright arrows, and rushed towards the position of the bright moon arrow in the opposite direction. Grabbed the bright moon arrow violently. Touched it. This time the bow and arrow did not disappear. Yi Qiao moved her mind and forced the Arrow Spirit into the moon arrow. Dodge it, see it again. This sentence is somewhat restrictive. If she escapes it, it will obediently fall into her hands. May worry finally let go. Finally got it. Let's go. To save people. Chu Exingji saw that she really had the Mingyu arrow in her hand, and tentatively wanted to pull it, but the arrow string did not move at all. Can't pull it off. Hateful. Is it really as the arrow said? It wants Yi Qiao. And after getting the bright moon arrow, how to get out of the restricted area is another big problem. This forbidden lock, can Mingyu arrow open it? Zhu Yu shook his head. If it can open the forbidden area, how could it be hidden inside? So the way to open the forbidden area should not be a forbidden spell. Forbidden areas are usually only openable by high-level officials, and the specific method used is not clear. Zhu Yu, we can wait until tomorrow, and let Master and the others lead us out. This is the safest, but the risk is a bit high. If Yue Kingzong finds out that their forbidden area has been turned into this. Yi Qiao made a spell in her hand and shouted, get out of the way. I can explode. That's right. She turned her head. You will help us lose money together, right? The quartet of swordsmanship asking Zong. Under Yi Qiao's direct gaze, Zhu Yu fell silent. She was thinking, with this group of troublemakers from the Changming sect on the stage, the ancestors of the Changming sect under the 9 springs must have all laughed. He laughed so loudly. My father will help to pay back the money. The Ming family is very rich, and they just blew up a forbidden area. Ming Xuan firmly believes that his father will try his best to help him pay back the money. Yi Qiao immediately reversed the curse seal, slapped it down, and slammed it down hard on the weak spot of the forbidden area. With a loud noise, the dust settled and a hole was blown into the forbidden area of Yue Qingzong. Yi Qiao and Mu Chongxi led slip away with one run. It's exciting to run after blowing up. I hope Ming family and Zhu family, Zhangjianzong can help fill in the spirit stones for compensation in the future. Ellipsis. Yi Qiao ran out from the forbidden area of the Yuqing sect overnight, and had to go to the 8 great families. Zhu Yu originally planned to pay for the flying boat, but was stopped by Yi Qiao. Have you heard of it? Yi Qiao said. The 8 great families stipulate that if Yu Jian is not allowed, Yu Jian will have to go to jail. Zhu Yu nodded. This is something everyone knows. That's why she planned to go there by airship. Yi Qiao said, it's just that I'm going to rob the prison, so why waste money on a flying boat? She likes to jump repeatedly on the edge of the rules, and Yi Qiao commanded the swordsmanship zong without changing his expression. You all have swords, right? People are still alive. Take 'em out, step on them, and fly towards them. Ah, yes, it's flying up in their eyelids. Hurry up. She has been upset with everyone for a long time. Zhu Yu stretched out his hand and shook the little junior sister's shoulder, shaking. We agreed to sneak in without anyone noticing. How can anyone not notice it? Just check and tell the world. Are you really not afraid of being hunted down by the 8 great families? Yi Qiao was almost dizzy from the shaking. A group of people stepped on their swords and controlled their swords in the boundary of the 8 great families. On the way to the destination, she made a simple division. Ming Xuan and I go to the prison, and you fly in front of them. It's best to lure a few more people away. Personally, Ming Xuan and I will come together. She guessed that there would be formations in the dungeon. With Yi Qiao leading the team, everyone emptied their minds and didn't bother to think so much. Zhu Yu thoroughly recognized the reality. After a few games, the other sects had a great time working with Yi Qiao, so follow along, it's right for her to go. Mu Chongxi took Zhu Yu, and ran separately from the 4 sword repairmen of the Zhangjianzong, and swayed in front of the guards of the 8 great families. They were all stunned. After so many years, it was the first time they met monks who dared to control their swords in the realm of the 8 great families. This kind of monk who did not know how to live or die made them very happy. Come on, catch them. A group of guards clamored to arrest them and put them in jail. Qin Xuan stepped on the sword and began to gallop, and the guards chased after him. The strange scene caused the monks outside the city to look up from time to time. Ever since the group of personal transfers in the individual competition left, the main city of the 8 families has not been as lively as it is today for a long time. After the sword-seeking sect sent most of them away, Yi Qiao put up an invisibility talisman, and took the opportunity to sneak in with Ming Xuan. One of the 2 broke the formation and the other beat someone. Even so, the guards in the dungeon were alarmed. They hurried over to check the situation, and saw 2 people who broke in. Both of them were in the middle stage of Jindan, and they were in their teens. Do what he wants. Come on! Exclamation mark. Where did this come from so wild? A group of relatives broke into the dungeon, thanks to their thinking. From Yu Qingzong. Noticed that the spirit arrow in Yi Qiao's hand was in the shape of a crescent moon when it solidified. It should be the bright moon arrow. It's just the first time I've seen that someone can pull the bright moon arrow to the full moon state. Fuck Yue Qingzong, a group of them have this ability. That's Grandma Li's Yi Qiao. Someone recognized it. At the end of Dabi, she thought she had finally calmed down. Nima co-authored a wave of big prison robbery, thanks to her thinking of it. The bright moon arrow was taken by Yi Qiao. More importantly, how did she get it? Take it if she can pull it away. Yi Qiao kicked the person unconscious with a roundabout kick. You guessed right, I will reward you with a coma gift bag. She struck cleanly and did not talk nonsense with them at all. Ming Xuan flew out a talisman, and she went down with a blade to stun one. With cooperation, directly enter the dungeon. Layers of dungeons are locked in the innermost, and those who don't know think that these three people have violated the rules of heaven. The trio who were companions in the prison were facing silence at this time. After all, the trio of Yi Qing'an, Song Hansheng, and Zhou Xingyun had cold personalities, as if they were talking less than anyone else. They had been together for about 2 days, and the communication only existed in the collision of eyes. After bumping into them, they looked away unluckily. Song Hansheng and Yi Qing'an were not in a hurry, anyway, there was a family hunting for them. It's just that after staying in this ghost place for a long time, my mentality is a little bit broken. Speaking of which, the three stayed together, but they didn't have any revolutionary friendship. Instead, they disliked each other more and more. Those fools didn't know what to think, and locked the three of them in a prison. Became inmates. Nonsense. Song Han said angrily, he has a bad relationship with these two sects. The three of them faced each other in silence, as if they were talking less than anyone else. Song Han said coldly, how are you going to get out? Wait until the family investigation is clear before going out. Zhou Xingyun silently shook his head. Song Hansheng, TSK. If I can go out, I can consider taking you with me. He raised his chin. Song Hansheng owed Yi Qiao a favor. But obviously it is hard to protect himself now. Song Hansheng just needs some help from his father to speed up the investigation, and finally press Yun Qiu to death completely and return his innocence. The three of them who continued to face each other bored were locked by the forbidden curse, their cultivation was sealed, and they couldn't move. They were all bored and let themselves go in a daze. Because it was too dark, they couldn't feel the passage of any time, and they were extremely tortured. Zhou Xingyun is not a gloomy little mushroom, he likes gloomy places, and he is also very listless in this kind of place. Soon the tips of their ears moved slightly, and they heard footsteps. Like someone is approaching. Yi Qing'an tilted his head slightly and looked outside. To be able to break the forbidden curse should at least be a power in the stage of transformation. Song Hansheng was suspicious. The conscience of the 8 great masters has discovered that we are innocent. Why shut 'em down? Yi Qing'an didn't think. They weren't so fast. The face of the 8 great families is more important than their lives. It is impossible to release them so quickly after losing so many direct descendants at once. What should we do now? Zhou Xingyun stretched his waist. His tone was flat. What else can I do? Even if the outside is really chaotic, the three of them have to stay calm. If they weren't let out, something must have happened outside. The three of them brainstormed and guessed all the possibilities. Assassin, Mizzou, or is it the high-level executives of the 8 great families who want to attack them? Ellipsis. Ming Xuan, as a child of a big family, you are so unruly. In the dungeon, walking inside, Ming Xuan met a few members of the Ming family. He was furious, pointing at Ming Xuan and pointing at the moral high ground. Ming Xuan opened his mouth, wanting to speak, but Yi Qiao crushed the formation and transformed into a bow shape. The bright moon arrow, which was rumored to be pulled by no one, was easily pulled to the full moon by the girl. Bright moon arrows, full bows. Pressing down, going up his 2 arrows without saying a word. The arrow shot precisely at the forbidden spell, and then shattered immediately. What nonsense are you talking about with them? Can't you see it? Yi Qiao hit the opponent's head with a side kick, knocking him unconscious. We are here to rob prison today. Chevron _ left previous home index next chevron _ right. Tap the screen to use Advanced Tools tip. You can use left and right keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 171. I saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 171. With a quick kick, Yi Qiao and Ming Xuan ran in without looking back. During the period, there were all kinds of formations. The Song family and the Ming family had many, so the Mingyu arrow came into use. The Dharma disappeared in an instant, worthy of being the treasure of the Yuqing sect. This is no longer sneaking in without anyone noticing, but breaking in forcefully, trampling the faces of the 8 great families repeatedly on the ground along the way. If the 8 great families are fast enough, they should arrive soon. The result of the failure of the prison robbery is that the few of them will go to the prison together. Thinking about it this way, the 2 of them became faster, put away the bright moon arrow, unsheathed the Fixian sword, ignored the monks of the 8 great families who wanted to stop them, and used swords with Ming Xuan all the way. After rushing over, those people didn't have a chance to speak, and the moment they saw the 2 of them, they were knocked unconscious by the sword. Those who stay here are weak. Basically, no one will come to guard it, and the ones who are closed are all personal transmissions. No one would think that someone would deviate from the orthodoxy and go to prison, and it would be too late to react. Someone wanted to rescue soldiers, but Ming Xuan picked up a brick and knocked him unconscious on the ground. There are not many people guarding it, and there are many traps set by formations and various magic tools, which will be closed if you are not careful. Ming Xuan was a little annoyed. I'll go. You go get 'em out first. Such temptations are not the solution. There must be a wayfinder. Mingyu arrow is the only one she has been able to pull away so far. Ming Xuan immediately went to explore the way, stepping on those traps first. Although fighting and killing is not enough, the ability to dodge is passed by the Changming clan. Yi Qiao grabbed him. Farewell first. She reached out her hand and took out a small box from the mustard bag. After opening it, a few bouncing paper figurines jumped out of the box as if they were alive, and swaggered forward. The gadgets that Yi Qiao bought were all messy, and the little paper figurines that would fall if poked, had no lethal power at all. But at critical moments, it can still be used like this. The criteria for judging magical artifacts are living creatures that can move. The little paper figurine is considered a lot of living creatures, but it can move and can deceive many magical artifacts hidden in the dark. For those that cannot be fooled, Yi Qiao smashed them with a sword, pulling Ming Xuan all the way through smoothly. At the very center of the dungeon, Yi Qiao raised her hand and put on her bow. The arrow pierced through layers of defensive formations and hit it. With a soft sound, the forbidden spell was broken. Inside the dungeon, only the pro translation was held, and the trio outside the situation watched the door being kicked open. The environment of the prison cell was too dark and quiet. Something would be magnified. The arrow pierced through the chain above the dungeon and broke immediately, and there was vaguely noisy turmoil outside. Yi Qiao kicked the door open with a bang. No matter how other people react, just shout. Eldest brother, hurry up. Without turning her head, she directed 2 spiritual arrows at the guards outside the door, greeted the 3 of them, and then ran out first. They will come to arrest us and put us in jail in a while. The other 3 remain out of state. Seeing her run away, they also subconsciously ran together. Although they couldn't figure out the situation, it was right to run. Song Hansheng's eyelids twitched wildly as he thought of the movement outside, turned his head to look at Yi Qiao who was running wildly, and suddenly had a bad premonition. What did you do again? Yi Qiao didn't speak. He ran too slowly. She rewarded him with a wind talisman, grabbed Song Hansheng and ran away. In contrast, Ming Xuan's treatment is much better. At least the senior brother is gentle. Poor Song Hansheng, a weak and unable to take care of himself, was led to run forward by several sword cultivators. Headed by Yi Qiao, The wind almost blew all the way, almost blowing him out of breath. It was discussed in advance that if someone is rescued, they will gather at the intersection point between the human world and the cultivation world. After arriving at the destination, Song Hansheng was finally able to catch his breath and say something. The others seemed to have lost their souls, paralyzed on the ground, and their minds were buzzing. What happened? Hurriedly dragged all three of them out. Crazy it's not. The rest of the swordsmanship sect also came late, and after getting rid of the guards of the 8 great families, their eyes lit up when they saw Yi Qing'an, brother. Asking sword sect Qi Le Rongrong didn't connect with Song Hansheng. He was picked out before he could say anything, his face contorted for a moment, and he couldn't bear it anymore. What are you going to do with me? He got it. Robbery. It was an organized prison robbery. Song Hansheng couldn't believe it. Are they crazy? If you stomp the faces of the 8 great masters under your feet, aren't you afraid of being wanted by them? And after the robbery, who will clean up the mess left behind? Song Hansheng thought about a lot of messy things, and his first reaction was to go back and admit his mistake, but Mingxuan stretched out his hand lazily to block it, and his peachy eyes raised slightly. Hey, don't you really want to go back? We broke in to waste so much effort, first Ming Yujian, and then sneaked around the lackeys of the 8 great families, now you want to go back? What a joke. Song Hansheng, Moon Arrow. If I remember correctly, those are the bows and arrows in his sect, right? No wonder the forbidden curse was easily broken, and the co-authoring was based on the moon arrow. Song Hansheng felt like scolding his mother for a moment. How did you get it? Zhu Yu was silent for a moment, and the others did not dare to speak. Got it after blowing up your forbidden area. Seeing that none of these people spoke, Song Hansheng understood, gritted his teeth, and reiterated, I want to go back. In any case, it is impossible for him to go crazy together. Oh. What are you going back for? Let's go. Mu Chongxi grabbed his collar and pulled him forward, hooking his shoulders. Do you still want to go back to that dark place and be a little mushroom? That's right. Why go back? Let's run first, and then go back after they find out. When the 8 great families find out that we have been wronged, they will cry bitterly and beg us to forgive us on their knees. The above is from Mingxuan's vision for the future. Song Hansheng didn't even finish his refusal, and was forcibly taken away by a group of people. After struggling, he was forcibly taken away by Mu Chongxi. The atmosphere was very peaceful. Yi Qiao stretched her waist, suddenly thought of something, turned around and handed the moon arrow to him. The spirit bow was a phantom before it touched it, and it only appeared after holding it. Song Han was stunned for a while, but didn't answer. Forget it. You take it first. Return it when you come back. He couldn't pull it away even for him. In fact, Song Hansheng suspected that the reason why Mingyu arrow couldn't be pulled away was that it was not prepared for Fu Xiu at all. Zhou Exingyun and Zhu Yu walked together. Zhu Yu was the most delicate-minded. He blinked lightly. Brother. Originally we planned to investigate. He spread his hands helplessly, but I think we should not be able to find out clearly with our ability. I don't know how long it will take until it is over, so my junior sister proposed to rob the prison. If it was Mu Chongxi, we would definitely not care about him. After all, you are our elder brother. Zhu Yu blinked and smiled. Zhou Exingyun silently looked at a few fellow students who were playing around, and held Duanchen tightly around his waist, seemingly helpless, and smiled a little. He couldn't help but found a way to protect. Duanchen's sword moved slightly, and at this moment it made a clear sound. This is also dust sword. For the first time a clear response was given. Ellipsis. The 5 members of swordsmanship Zong all had a pass, and Yi Qiao brought the senior brother's pass. The only problem was that Song Hansheng didn't have one. Song Han swept towards them and snorted lightly. it's nothing difficult. Just a warrant. He still looked like his crazy parents didn't know him, and they retreated tacitly to show him the stage. Song Hansheng took out a small bag of spirit stones, walked up to a monk, and said, "Give it to me." The expression that "I will give you the spirit stone is a gift to you" made the other party angry. When he looked up and saw a bag of spirit stones, he swallowed the curse that came out of his mouth. "Brother, here it is." Relying on his banknote ability, Song Hansheng easily obtained the pass. As expected, poverty limited the imagination of the two sects. With the pass in hand, Zhu Yu told them the rules after entering the world in advance. The first point is that you can't shoot at ordinary people. If there were no restrictions, the world would have been slaughtered long ago. In a sense, ordinary people are far more useful than monks in the world. This has led to many demons or evil cultivators wantonly recruiting believers in the world to direct them to do things, and the world is also very chaotic. At this time, monks need to take action. Yi Qiao hummed twice, and then. Zhu Yu was silent for a while, then I forgot. He was the kind who listened to the class but didn't listen to it completely. Sometimes he would put on a show. Anyway, since Yi Qiao came, Elder Zhao didn't care much about other people. Zhu Yu and Song Han were speechless, and the co-authors were a group of non-attendant lecturers. Zhu Yu answered, "Second point, go to the monks to register after leaving the human world and get an ID card. The ID card is very important. If you don't have it, those monks who go to the world to perform tasks will not trust us. It doesn't matter if you passed it on or not. Without identity card proof, it is equivalent to a black household in the world. Third, try not to be seen by ordinary people flying around in the sky with a sword, punching monsters, and stepping on demons. For a group of ordinary people, imagining this scene is terrifying." Yi Qiao touched the tip of her nose. She was quite demanding. "When fighting, remember to choose a place where there are no people. You have a mission to go to the world, right?" Song Hansheng asked. "Otherwise there can be no pass. Both sects have a pass order, so it is only possible that the mission assigned by the 5 sects is for them to form a group to go together." Yi Qiao nodded, subduing demons and demons. Unexpectedly, it was their turn now. They used to kill monsters and practice their skills, so it was strange that they were suddenly asked to subdue demons and demons. While chatting, a sword aura came, the sword stopped the wind, and the white sword shadow fell into a deep crack. Qin Huai's sword swung over and collided with Bujanjin. "Qin Huai of Cheng Fengong. I'm an old acquaintance." "Ah, Qin Huai." Yi Qiao waved her hand, as if she couldn't see the coldness in his eyes. She grinned and said, "Shall we go down the mountain together?" Qin Huai was ordered to come out to rob people. As a result, as soon as he found someone, he was encouraged to go down the mountain together by the jailbreakers. Qin Huai had a strange expression on his face. She really didn't regard herself as an outsider. Qin Huai didn't pay attention to her. The Qingfeng sword was out of its sheath, and the strong wind was blowing. He said in a low voice, "Zhou Exingyun and Yi Qingyan and Song Hansheng stay here. You can do what you want." He doesn't intend to shoot anyone else. Especially Yi Qiao, he still owes her a favor. "You want to stop so many of us by yourself." Chu Exingji was stunned. Kun Zu got out of the sheath, raised her hand and pointed at him. "Are you out of your mind?" Qin Huai. Of course he had people with him, but those people were too slow, so Qin Huai could only stop them first. He was assigned to stop people, and a group of progenitors was messing around, and the elders couldn't follow suit, so of course they sent someone with high force value to stop him. The 8 great families were also chasing him, but Qin Huai arrived first and stopped them. Qin Huai looked at Chu Exingji and stiffened. Fist hardened. Why does this Chu Exingji still speak without brain as always? Yi Qiao. We're going to the world. Are you really not going to be together? Qin Huai said indifferently, no. I'll take you flying. Yi Qiao said, you guys should go to the world in a few days, right? Since Chang Mingzong and Jian Wenzong both have pass orders, it can only explain one thing, they all go, but it will be later or later. Qin Huai saw the expressions of these people who were about to go out together. The veins on his forehead twitched, he gritted his teeth and said a word, no. He's not crazy. Why not? Yi Qiao said, anyway, you have to go sooner or later. As a senior brother of Changfeng Sect, you can go down to the world to explore the way for your juniors in advance. What's the use of you staying here? The family will not remember your kindness, and if they can't stop them, they will definitely take you under the knife. Why don't you come with us? Yi Qing'an also looked at Qin Huai calmly. You can't stop us. Qin Huai. Damn it. He didn't answer, and weighed the pros and cons. If this group of in-person biography is stopped, the other three sects will definitely bear the grudge against them. Qin Huai didn't want to face any of the above situations. It seems that going with them is still the best solution. Looking at the brainwashed Qin Huai, Yi Qiao must not let him come to his senses, and grabbed him, let's go together, we will not be alone on the road. So Qin Huai was taken away by force. Ellipsis. It was already the second day after learning about the feats of these personal descendants. Of course, punishment is impossible. That is their future, but it seems that this group of futures is now skewed. Whose family is serious about running away to the world after robbing the prison? For the first time, the aristocratic families and sects in the cultivation world gathered for a meeting. One of the 8 great families slammed the table loudly. The bright moon arrow was taken away, the forbidden area was blown into holes, and the dungeon was overturned. It's so courageous for them to pass it on personally. The mastermind of the robbery of the 2 sects must be Yi Qiao from the Changming sect. But Qin Fanfan's first reaction was, damn, my apprentice is so promising, he can pull the moon arrow. He cleared his throat under cover, looking at the astonishing amount on the bill, and at the gloomy old faces of the 8 great families. Qin Fanfan didn't dare to answer. Elder Yue Qingzong was also very angry, but there was nothing he could do. His chief disciple was nowhere to be seen, and then, what about our cold voice? Song Hansheng, chief executive of Yue Qingzong. The person who reported was watching his heart. Yi Qing'an, who asked about the sword sect, followed her to the world. What about Qin Huai? Didn't we send him to intercept him in advance? How come there is no movement until now? Because the other party was silent for a while. He also went down with him. Chevron _left previewed the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 172. Damn, shameless. Yi Qiao who killed 1,000 swords. Abducting the chiefs of 3 sects was not enough. The chief of the fucking Changfeng sect was also fooled away. What should I do now? How about arresting them all? Qin Fanfan coughed twice under cover, suppressing the urge to laugh out loud, and asked. The 4 chief disciples of the 5 sects were all abducted, so what is it called? Issue the arrest warrant. After a pause, the master of swordsmanship sect knew that the 8 great families would not be kind if they didn't give an explanation, so he added, don't hurt them. Patriarch Zhou's voice sank immediately, and he retorted, a group of them handed down, isn't it the same as Bai Chia? Tianzhao of the same age, no matter in cultivation or strength, is more than twice as high as ordinary monks of the same realm. The point is, 2 nascent soul stage, 3 golden core late stages, and the rest are all golden core mid stage, who would dare catch them? How could it be in vain? This is a warning to them. Qin Fanfan plausibly said, although they have not suffered any physical injuries, I believe that after this encounter, they must suffer mentally all the time. Suffering. Then the other 4 aristocratic families immediately came out to express their agreement. a group of children are ignorant, we will discipline them well when they come back. Just kidding, the direct descendants are also involved, and no one can escape if they really want to be punished. The Yi family spoke up, no matter how dissatisfied the other 5 families were with knocking out teeth and swallowing blood. It would be easy for the 3 in-laws to punish them, but the problem is now that they are a group of in-laws, how should they be punished? Can they all be closed? They also knew that they probably had little to do with those in-laws, but after all this kind of thing happened, the 8 great families and the 5 sects were on opposite sides, so why not take this opportunity to suppress the arrogance of the 5 sects? No one expected that a rebellious person would come out of a group of good students, who would not accept any grievances, and patted his ass to rob the prison. Angry, but there is no way. Ellipsis. Zhu Yu and Yi Qiao's ideas coincided with each other, and they took the pass to go to the world. No matter how much the 8 great families covered the sky with their hands, they didn't care about them going down the mountain to set out on missions. The vast majority of all the descendants of the immortal sect were born and bred. They were either cultivating or on the way of cultivating before the Dabi. They rarely even came out of the sect, let alone going to the world. Take a look at the people at the border crossing point. There is not even the most basic aura in the world. After staying for a long time, suddenly changing places in the cultivation world, I feel uncomfortable all over. The closer I get, the stronger the discomfort. Zhu Yu reminded. Clean up, change your clothes, and put away the sword around your waist so that you won't be seen. They are all famous spirit swords. They are too eye-catching. After Yi Qiao's prison robbery was over, Elder Zhao contacted him immediately. Elder, week off. To the world. Elder Zhao snorted heavily. You guys are so courageous. He also heard about the feats of this group of people. He sneered and said, do you need me to praise you for your loyalty? Yi Qiao, that's not necessary. Why don't you tell us how to do the main task this time? It's the first time I went to the human world and I don't know much about it, otherwise she wouldn't think of contacting the elders. Elder Zhao was choked. Dead child. Fortunately, after getting along for nearly 2 years, Elder Zhao has been gradually worn down by her from irascibility to Buddhism. Kang Zhang sighed. The first task is to get rid of the demons who are causing chaos in the world. If you find it troublesome, you can get in touch with those monks who have been in the world for a long time, and follow them to perform tasks. If it doesn't bother you, just check it yourself. Speaking of this, Elder Zhao said in a deep voice, the 8 great families have issued a warrant, and you all have a share. Keep a low profile this time when you go to the human world, do you understand? Yi Qiao was not surprised by the result. Okay. She was too lazy. She was the first one to veto her own investigation, and of course she chose to join the team of those monks. After getting some news on Elder Zhao, Yi Qiao joined the team to share the news with his fellow disciples. I have good news and bad news, which one do you want to hear? After finishing speaking, Yi Qiao didn't care about their reaction, and answered by herself. The bad news is that I'm wanted by the 8 great families. Yi Qing'an's eyelids twitched. What about the good news? She smiled. The good news is that we are wanted by the 8 great families together. Happy. Qin who I wanted to scold someone. Happy ass. But when he was dragged along by Yi Qiao, he had already anticipated today's situation, so apart from his ugly face, it was normal. But Yi Qing'an and Song Hansheng have been the children of the Zhenzang Miaohong family since birth, a number 1 in the way of swordsmanship, and a talented talisman cultivator. They never expected that one day they would be wanted by the 8 great families. After the 2 of them heard the 2 news, when the wind blew, they gradually changed from color to gray. Was hit to discoloration. Mu Chongshi poked Yi Qing'an in petrochemical. It's nothing. It's just wanted. That's it. Yi Qing'an no longer wants to communicate with him. Good students are hit hard, and those who are unlearned and incompetent don't care so much. Just enjoy yourself in time. Regardless of Yi Qing'an's reaction, Yi Qiao continued to reveal the news given by Elder Zhao. There were only two choices. One was to go to the human world to quietly investigate the movements of the demons, and the other was to form a team with the monks. To be on the safe side, Zhu Yu said softly, "Let's check it ourselves. It's just a waste of time. It's not suitable to mix with those monks. If you are wanted, it will be troublesome to be exposed." Hearing that the sword-seeking sect wanted to investigate by herself, Yi Qiao touched her chin. "We will form a team with the monks." Zhu Yu hesitated, "But you will be recognized. No one in the comprehension world knows you, Yi Qiao." Qin Huai's tone was sour. He also wanted to be famous. Yi Qiao corrected, "You can choose not to be in the same team. Of course, a group of people will be recognized when they walk together, but there is a lot of room for maneuvering when they walk alone. There are several teams of monks going to the human world. Each finds a suitable team to hide in a low-key manner, and it is no problem to wait for a while." Seeing that Yi Qiao didn't have the slightest intention to make a living by herself, the swordsman asked her to give up trying to persuade her, and asked about other topics. "Is there someone who came from the world? Let's lead the way when the time comes. Most of them are born and bred immortal disciples, but there are not no geniuses in the world, but there are very few." Mu Chongxi raised his hand. "I should be counted. If you don't have a place to live, I can give it to my father. Provide you with accommodation, but he should be very busy, right?" Chu Exingji was incredible. "Your father?" Mu Chongxi nodded. "My father is the emperor." Zhu Yu and he looked at each other for a few seconds, lost their voice for a moment. "This guy. Royal." After a while, she said, "I'm sorry. It turned out to be His Highness. It is said that the human world is more chaotic than the world of cultivation. At least it is peaceful if there are powerful people guarding the world of cultivation. Those demons and evil cultivators only dare to come in private. On the surface, it is much safer. The 5 sects all have powerful seniors. A place that couldn't be safer. In the world, life and death are self-determined." Zhu Yu heard from the master that there will be evil cultivators doing whatever they want in the world, publicizing it, and recruiting believers. Various methods of harming cultivation continue, such as offering sacrifices and stealing fate. However, due to the restriction of the Tao of Heaven, those who come down from the cultivation world are not allowed to harm ordinary people, so those evil cultivators can only hide behind the scenes, and those who attack the same kind are often ordinary people. Who doesn't want to rise to the top and have a lot of money? There are not a few ordinary people who seek help from those evil cultivators. Especially in places like the Imperial Palace, there are more shady things, and monks are often invited to come to help. The mission is to subjugate demons, so aren't we also monks? Chu Exingji touched Mu Chongxi with his arm. "Just ask your father to ask us for help." It happened that they had no place to live. Mu Chongxi sighed. "He will only think that you are all crazy dancers." His father always thought that he was abducted by a magic stick. Of course, it's not that the royal family doesn't believe in these things, it's just that Xi Chuxu was the one who brought him into the sect. Xi Chuxu, she looks like a young man. Among the old men who are immortal, she looks like a charlatan. Mu Chongxi couldn't explain it in a few words in the letter, so he couldn't perform a flying sword on the spot, right? Sword-seeking Zong planned to investigate by himself, while Changming Zong chose to find a team each to gather news. Yi Qiao pointed to the 4 senior brothers. "You two are in a group. If you can't put your face down, just pretend to be a girl and change your face so that it's less targeted. If you can't put your face down, then say it's a companion to go to the world to experience together. Dress up as a girl." Both Zhu Yu and Zhou Exingyun couldn't let go of this face. Hearing Yi Qiao's words, They looked at each other strangely, obviously refusing. Seeing this, Yi Qiao shrugged and looked at the other two, then Yu Mingxuan and Mu Chongxi looked at each other. They both don't want to lose face, and they both like to join in the fun, but they can join in the fun, but they must not become the fun by themselves. When they heard this sentence, their eyes lit up. Everyone wanted to see each other's women's clothing, and started to encourage each other crazily. Second senior brother, you seem to be very suitable for women's clothing. Mu Chongxi grinned, grabbed Mingxuan's collar with a smile, and forced him to stay in place. Come on, whoever will go to hell if you don't go to hell. This is your responsibility as a senior brother. Mingxuan gritted his teeth. It must be good for you to wear women's clothing. Mu Chongxi, of course it's not as good looking as you. We can lie on our sides, but you must be suave. Mingxuan, so modest. I think you are crying with envy for women's clothing. Come on, come on. Come on, you must wear this women's clothing. I don't know what happened, but this group became anxious after arguing on the road, and even started fighting on the way. Zhu Yu. They shouldn't be together. In a team of two, Yi Qiao can live happily alone, even without words to stop her, she can fly up to the sky by herself. People's team, and then nodded, called her Shaoqi. The black ghostly aura took shape, and after the figure solidified, the little boy probably didn't wake up, and was a little dazed. Yi Qiao has already checked it out. Those monks are probably building foundations. The highest golden core, although Shaoqi can restrain ghost energy after transforming into form, he has the image of a little ghost. Yi Qiao called Xiao out, bent down, hugged Xiao tightly in her arms, did not hide her cultivation, slowed down her pace, and walked slowly towards those monks who seemed to be in a big family who were ignorant of the world and had stupid eyes in their eyes past. She just overheard a few words. This team is all descendants of a group of aristocratic families. The 8 great families issued arrest warrants very quickly, and it spread throughout the cultivation world in a short while. Many teams are talking about those personal heirs who broke into the dungeon without permission. Climb to the 8 great masters. A group of direct descendants who want to make some contributions to the family have heated discussions, wanting to encircle and suppress these direct descendants, so they got online with the 8 great families. These people really dare to think. Yi Qiao also thought about it. She's going to be the grandma of these people. She smiled thoughtfully, and Xiao Qi, who was still sleepy and buried in her mother's arms, rubbing her face and preparing to continue sleeping, was suddenly trembling when Yi Qiao laughed. 5 or 6 teenagers and girls in their teens were talking about this mission in full swing, exchanging clues with each other, and didn't notice anyone coming. A boy noticed Yi Qiao's approach, hesitated for a while, and stepped forward to block Yi Qiao's sight. Excuse me, what's the matter? He looked at the girl who was walking over with a child in her arms, walking a bit slowly. The key point was that her cultivation base was in the middle stage of golden core, and a group of people couldn't help but secretly became vigilant. Yi Qiao hugged Xiao Qi tightly in her arms, and said with a calm voice, I'm here to go to the world with you. A young girl sized Yi Qiao up, wondering, golden core mid-stage. He has a higher level of cultivation than their leaders. Shouldn't this kind of cultivation base form a team by itself? Why did you find them? Yi Qiao buried her head on Xiao Qi's shoulder. Under the probing gaze of the other party, her expression remained unchanged, and she sighed softly, I'm already 60 years old. I'm going to the world this time to relax. Yi Qiao touched Xiao Qi's head and started to make up stories for them. This is my child, you read it right, he's a brat. He died when I was born, and that man, after seeing me give birth to a dead baby, married a female cultivator from another family overnight. In order to keep my child alive, I turned him into a little devil. Yi Qiao spoke intermittently, perfectly portraying the image of an orphan and widowed mother who was abandoned by a scumbag. Even though her voice was tired, she forced a smile, which was just right. How much is the strength of the mother? Coaxed a group of children from aristocratic families who had never seen the world enter a daze. They were slightly taken aback. The cultivation world has a way to maintain its appearance. You can maintain whatever you want, and it is understandable for women to love beauty. Looking at the other party's cultivation base, combined with her experience and age, it turned out to be the case. Yi Qiao hugged the child in her arms, focused her eyes on the boy who was chatting with her just now, and said seriously, "Young man, would you like to call me Grandma?" "Grandma, Grandma." The other party hesitated for a few seconds and called out nervously. Yi Qiao smiled, "Hey." The KFC almost screamed, "Shit, shameless. I saved the whole sect by playing badly." Chapter 173. KFC asked, "Yi Qiao, what good will it do you to deceive them?" Yi Qiao, "It can give me short-term happiness. After a monk reaches a certain level, he can choose which stage to maintain his appearance. Xi Chuxu chose the image of a young man around 20 years old, and the other suzerains may have the image of a group of old men in order to maintain their majesty. Although Xi Chuxu hates dogs, at least the image of the little uncle is pleasing to the eye." This excuse made sense. Yi Qiao said that she was over 60 years old, and she had a young child with her. She respected the old and cared for the young, so it was hard to refuse for a while. And they gradually discovered that this person was not only old, but also a little deaf. "I don't know what the senior is called," he asked tentatively. Yi Qiao, "Ha, young man, what did you say?" Xiao Qi came close to her ear and repeated it, and she heard it clearly, and smiled, "Oh. Me. My surname is Li, you can just call me Grandma Li." To be honest, looking at her face, I couldn't yell this grandma. "Miss Li." He thought about it for a while but still didn't follow what Yi Qiao said. Instead he politely refused, "It may be dangerous to walk with us." The strength of their team itself is not very high, but they are all young masters and ladies from big families, and they have a lot of resources in their hands. At least they are safe and sound. Nowadays, it is actually quite unpleasant to suddenly bring an old lady who is over years old. It would be fine if she is a great talent, but she is only 60 years old, and everyone else is worried about being dragged down with her. Yi Qiao shook her head and smiled gratifiedly. "It's okay, I like a younger team with vitality. These talents in the cultivation world are still so stupid, so she can rest assured." The other party's face froze. Seeing that the other party didn't seem to understand his tactful refusal, he could only laugh twice, and turned his head to chat with his companion. "The road is really boring, and there are not many topics to talk about in the cultivation world, and it is nothing more than these geniuses. I can't believe that Yi Qing'an didn't take the first place in the repair list with a sword." A little girl hugged her sword, depressed. "It is said that I met Yi Qiao. Unlucky, I lost a point, and was taken by Mu Chongxi, very unlucky." The young man lowered his eyes. "I don't know what these people have done to make the 8 great families arrest warrants. As the saying goes, family ugliness should not be publicized. No matter how wicked the group of in-laws do, they're still their own children. None of them have the habit of being watched by outsiders, so the outside world can only guess, and they don't know exactly what happened to the 8 great families." However, he changed the subject. "If I were one of those direct descendants, I would have kept a low profile long ago. This kind of news spreads quickly, right? I guess those people may be hiding in some shady corner now. None of them have a good impression of those personal transmissions. All the resources in the cultivation world are tilted towards the 5 sects, and the rest are divided up by the 8 great masters. The personal transmissions are destined to be superior to others. It's quite annoying. A group of people who haven't even been out of the sect a few times are still in the future of the cultivation world. I'm better than them. Having said that, the girl in green explained, that number. Yi Qiao is quite powerful. Strictly speaking, Yi Qiao was not number one, but she won the team competition under her leadership, and no one would argue against saying that she was number one in Changmingzong. Yi Qiao. The boy blinked, recalling frantically for a few seconds. I remember her bounty is quite high, right? I don't think so, it must have been blown out. He muttered. Yi Qiao glanced at the boy who was talking. This time she didn't pretend to be deaf, and suddenly said, "What's your name?" The other party was stunned, not understanding why the old woman suddenly asked this question. Me. My name is Zhou Xiu. Shu'er. Yi Qiao called out naturally, and patted Xiao Qi's head. If my child marries a wife and has children, his grandson should be as old as you. She showed him a gentle smile. I think you are as kind as my grandson. Zhao Fu didn't know why, but he always felt that he was being taken advantage of by others. He didn't talk to Yi Qiao, and Yi Qiao stopped walking halfway. The others turned to look at her, concerned about her age, and Zhou Xiu, as the leader, thoughtfully asked her what was wrong. Yi Qiao. I'm getting old and my legs hurt. I want to take a break. Zhou Xiu. Why don't you find a sedan chair to carry me? Just take a rest. Zhou Xiu reluctantly said, there are no sedan chairs here. Yi Qiao sighed, her tone full of regret, then please pour me a glass of water, as I get tired easily when I'm old. Zhou Xiu suppressed his anger and gave her a glass of water. Yi Qiao caught him and tortured him along the way. He was either tired or thirsty, and he was furious. Watching him cry, saying that his life is so miserable. He couldn't vent his breath. He endures. When he gets to the world, he will definitely leave this damn old lady behind. KFC asked her, why do you keep teasing him? Yi Qiao. Because I don't have the quality. Yi Qiao commanded people without any psychological burden. Seeing these people busy, she felt comfortable. Didn't she want to encircle and suppress them? She just rehearsed for them in advance. The boy was furious. She has too many things to do. When he was on his way one day, he listened to Yi Qiao babbling all the time. His head hurts. Can a 60-year-old be so good at chanting? Yi Qiao. Hey, Shu'er. Come and help grandma clean up. He let out an irritable cry, and rushed in. Got it. There is a handover point between the human world and the realm of comprehension, and you will reach your destination when you walk to the handover point, but it takes a few days to walk to the handover point. Without a mount, you can only walk on foot. During Yi Qiao's 3 days with these people, she made them collapse. In the eyes of those people, this old lady is just a lazy rascal. Poor person must have something mean. With no one on guard against her, that set of messages was easy. Yi Qiao has a way of playing with people's mentality. First, she sympathizes with them and asks them to let her in, then she pretends to be deaf to make them relax their vigilance, and then directly tortures them mentally by being a rascal. Who would guard against a madman? She originally planned to test out so many monk teams one by one, and find the stupidest team to get good news. Her excuses were not very good, and were even full of loopholes. The smarter ones would refuse, so they would leave along with the flow and change to a stupider team. Of course, it is not ruled out that some smart people think she is a master and let her join the team. Either way, the purpose is achieved. The news has also arrived. The junction between the human world and the cultivation world is at the very center. At night, there will be evil spirits, which are formed by the collection of yin qi. They are similar to ghost qi and are afraid of light. This kind of thing cannot be dealt with cleanly, and the breeding speed is extremely fast. Yi Qiao caught a few of them by accident when she was on her way just now, and her consciousness was comparable to that of the nascent soul stage. The other boys and girls were really angry and attacked her. Yi Qiao was afraid that something would happen to these little sheep, so she yelled. Zhou Xiu came over angrily. What's wrong with you? Yi Qiao, I'm tired. Let's go on our way tomorrow. Zhou Xiu opened her mouth to refute her. Yi Qiao continued her moral kidnapping. At your age, how can you bear to watch me walk so long as an old man? Of course, there is also a good temper in the team, that is, the boy who called her grandma at the beginning, who is quite tolerant towards Yi Qiao. After all, in his opinion, Yi Qiong is as old as his grandfather, and it is understandable that he has a weird temper when he encountered such an accident when he was young. He nodded and glanced at the sky. It's not in a hurry anyway. Let's go to the world tomorrow. Zhou Xiu, it's not a matter of urgency. Don't you think she treats us like grandchildren? The girl in green nodded her chin slightly. Why are you so irritable? I feel that this old lady is like a powerful person with a story. Most of Da Neng's temper is quite weird, and he always feels that this old woman is not aimless. Zhou Xiu, the power of the 60-year-old Jindan period. The girl pondered for a moment. Don't you think she has the calmness to control the overall situation in her hands? What does she mean by keeping the overall situation in her hands? Zhou Xiu jumped up. She is very good at directing us, right? Can we take the opportunity to get rid of her? The good-tempered boy shook his head. It's not good. Although the other party did have a lot of things. She seemed to regard them all as grandchildren, and once they tried to reason with her, she began to hold the ghost baby in her arms for moral kidnapping, saying that they didn't know how to respect the elderly. Depend on. I'm so mad. The whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 174. Is this your another junior sister? Ellipsis. When the two sects were divided into several routes, worried that the fellow sect had gone to the human world and had no place to live, Mu Chongxi sent a message with a paper crane, informing his father to come and send someone to meet those who asked about Jianzong. If there is no accident, Jianzong should have come to the world before them. Chang Mingzong is looking for a team to form a team, so he will follow the big team all the way. No one is needed to respond. Yi Qing'an and the others arrived in the world first, and they all looked around curiously on the way of Chu Xingji, which was very different from the world of cultivation. During the day, various vendors hawked and bustled, but at night, there was a dead silence at the foot of the imperial city. Every household closed the doors and locked their windows, without even the most basic place to stay. They came early, so they took the lead in investigating where the demons and evil cultivators appeared most frequently. Mingxuan and Mu Chongxi quarreled on the road for a long time, and finally they decided to decide the outcome by guessing fists. After Mingxuan lost, he blew up. Then he was dragged to find a place where no one was around, and changed into a pink and white waist-length skirt. Mingxuan held a flower umbrella, and Qi Shiren walked out. Yi Qiao has never worn such a pretty color. Most of Yi Qiao's clothes are dark blue and cool tones, and then there is the red disciple Zongfu. Mu Chongxi let out a hey. Second senior brother is modest. Isn't this suitable for you? Mingxuan's brows and eyes were originally romantic, but after wearing it, it didn't seem so out of harmony. He was quite ashamed at the beginning, but when he waited later, he found that there were many male monks courting him on the road, and Mingxuan looked complacent. Sure enough, a good-looking person like him is attracting attention wherever he goes. The team rushed to the human world one after another. After receiving the news, Mu Chongxi and Mingxuan worried that their secrets would be exposed on the road, so they ran away one night in advance and went to the palace to meet their classmates. Mingxuan was wearing women's clothing, dragging his skirt to walk, and he couldn't walk. In the end he simply strode forward like a crab. Let's go, I'll take you to find my mother first. After musing for a moment, Mu Chongxi made a decision. he sneaked in with Ming Xuan, almost being regarded as an assassin. Mu Chongxi didn't tell anyone in the family about Mu Chongxi's upcoming visit. He was supposed to be on a mission, and the family affairs had to be kept secret. It would be bad if someone took advantage of him. Pointing, "That's my mother, she's pretty." Ming Xuan stroked his chin, and took a few glances. Mu Chongxi looks more like a noble concubine, very bright. He wanted to say hello to the mother of the fourth senior brother, and walked over with bold steps, but he didn't expect that the other party was also very enthusiastic, and the moment he saw the two of them, his brows lit up. "Xiao Shi." She grabbed Ming Xuan's hand and smiled gratifiedly. "My good boy, you are our Xiaoxi's junior sister, right? You are indeed gentle and decent. No wonder Xiaoxi always mentions you in her letters." The imperial concubine may have also put layers of filters on her son's classmates, ignoring Ming Xuan's bold steps, and even praised, "gentle and decent," without changing his face. Ming Xuan. Grass. He's not. Seeing that his own mother had identified the wrong person, Mu Chongxi yelled, "My junior sister is not like him. My junior sister is quite obedient. She is prettier than him." The imperial concubine suddenly let go of her hand. "Then is this your other junior sister?" Mu Chongxi scratched his head, but he didn't expect to deceive himself. Could it be that his fellow student is actually a pervert who likes to wear women's clothes? Ellipsis. After hearing Yi Qiao's suggestion, they planned to rest and sleep in place, or to meditate. Of course, Yi Qiao was asleep. She fell asleep as soon as she lay down on the ground. Those evil spirits were also vigilant, as if they sensed that someone was watching them. One of them suddenly looked at where Yi Qiao and the others were, and Yi Qiao quickly pulled back his consciousness. "Ah." Zhou Xiu scratched her hair. "Did you feel something approaching?" The gentle boy was puzzled. No." Yi Qiao was a little surprised. This Zhou Xiu didn't seem to be able to use her brain well, but she was quite sensitive. She continued to lie there pretending to be asleep, and checked the situation along the way. Evil spirits are rare, and even those with a weak mind cannot catch them. They have no shape and can split into countless pieces. Even any black spot can survive. Expanding countless times, it is more disgusting than ghost aura. Sensing an evil creature the size of a mosquito approaching quietly, Yi Qiao's brows twitched, and seeing it trying to approach Zhou Xiu next to her, she squinted her eyes. The moment Xi Chong approached, Zhou Xiu's back suddenly tensed. Feeling a strong killing intent, he subconsciously clenched the breastplate in his hand. Haven't had time to act yet. Yi Qiao, who was asleep, turned over suddenly, yawned, and kicked him off inadvertently. Then turned over and continued to sleep. Being kicked away by Yi Qiao, the evil spirit was a little angry. Just as he was about to rush towards Yi Qiao, Xiao Qi in his arms suddenly opened his eyes. The guy was crushed to death. As if sensing the danger, the black shadow suddenly stopped, and quickly retreated like a tide, disappearing. Didn't catch it. Yi Qiao felt a little regretful. I thought I could use this to capture the evil spirit and study it. Zhou Xiu, who was kicked down by Yi Qiao, was furious. He actually sensed something approaching, but after being kicked down by the old woman, the danger seemed to be gone again. He clutched his sore buttocks, looked at Yi Qiao, who was lying on his side and seemed to be sleeping peacefully, and felt that the disappearance of the danger just now might not have much to do with her. Zhou Xiu took a deep breath and crazily brainwashed herself too. Respect the old and love the young. Respect the old and love the young. RRR. Shaking it and being unable to shake it off, the boy who had been tortured all the way looked a little dazed. Chevron. I saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 175. Young people, you remember. I saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 175. Young people, you remember. On the second day, except for Yi Qiao, Everyone was a little depressed. Looking at Yi Qiao, who was not affected in the slightest, someone couldn't help asking, "Didn't you feel anything last night?" Yi Qiao: "Ah, what did you say? Keep pretending to be deaf." The other party backed away aggrieved. This person was really deaf, and they didn't bother to hide it. They discussed the situation last night in front of Yi Qiao. There is something there, I'm sure. But I don't know why it suddenly disappeared in the back. I can feel that they are staring at us all the time. But I don't know why they still dare not approach. Zhou Xiu breathed a sigh of relief. His spiritual sense is considered to be the strongest, higher than his peers, which is why he was allowed to lead the team. Hearing what he said, the girl nodded. "It feels chilly, let's go quickly. If we encounter those evil spirits, it will be very troublesome." Things like evil spirits don't just haunt at night. During the day too. It sticks to people like a dog skin plaster. Decided to hurry, Zhou Xiu thought about it and didn't say anything about Yi Qiao kicking her. It was too embarrassing. Yi Qiao took a few steps behind, looked at the evil creatures following behind, squinted her eyes, and thought about how to solve it. This time, not only she saw it, but others also noticed it. The evil spirit probably knew that Yi Qiao was not easy to mess with, so he picked a girl in green clothes and built a foundation and rushed over, turning into a black shadow ferociously, like a hungry wolf pouncing on food. Zhou Xiu reminded, "Get out of here." Zhou Xiu wanted to grab Yi Qiao, who was in a daze, but before he touched it, Yi Qiao suddenly let out a groan, and staggered forward, and the direction she fell was exactly where the girl in the green skirt was. The KFC grew up again in the middle of her golden core breakthrough. It used to be able to nest on her head, but now it can only be stuffed into the Shaoqi domain for a while after it grows bigger. Yi Qiao made it smaller, making it a size that she could hold with one hand. Then, seeing the opportunity, he slapped it along the way, and under the cover of his sleeve, KFC spewed fire, instantly burning the evil spirit in front of him to ashes and disappearing into the air. Yi Qiao lay down on the ground, put the KFC in her sleeves, stood up as if nothing had happened, and walked forward with her hands behind her back. Sure enough, I can't even walk well when I'm old. After dispelling the evil spirit, Yi Qiao conveniently tried the effect of the KFC flame. It is indeed the phoenix, the nemesis of evil. Seeing being stopped again and again, Xi Chong was dumbfounded. Its IQ is not high, and it can comfort itself crazily at first. She can't see herself, can't see. But twice in a row, whether it was intentional or not, she happened to break it every time, and it was crazy. Not only Xi Chong was a little stunned, but the others were also a little stunned. Relying on Yi Qiao's suspected deafness, they didn't even bother to avoid anyone, so they lowered their voices slightly, and the girl in green said incoherently, "Have you noticed that thing? It rushed towards me just now." She thought she was going to break a magic weapon to save her life, but when Grandma Li approached, she disappeared. Don't you think it's too coincidental? She glanced at Yi Qiao, always feeling that this person interrupted the other's spellcasting intentionally or unintentionally. What a coincidence. Yi Qiao lowered her eyes and let them use their rich imagination to guess. The more outrageous the guessing, the better. This is the effect she wanted. At first, there was still a little doubt. With her repeated operations, Zhou Xiu also had some doubts about life. Could it be that there is really something hidden? The power of the God transformation stage. How can they tie up this kind of power? Zhou Xiu hesitated. I felt danger last night, and I was kicked by her and I was gone. But he thought it was a coincidence. Zhou Xiu lowered her voice. Which one of you will talk to her? Xue, you know her best. I don't know if her sentence Xue was too demonic. She said it smoothly, and met the slightly angry eyes of her companion. The girl decisively shut up. Ellipsis. Old God Yi Qiao was sitting there, seemingly not surprised by his arrival. Zhou Xiu hesitated for a moment, not knowing what to think, and his tone was somewhat respectful. Have you heard of the evil god? Yi Qiao. Ah. What did you say? Zhou Xiu wasn't so irritable this time. He took a deep breath and changed his name. It's a kind of evil spirits gathered together, like those most dangerous existences are collectively called evil gods. Some monks who go astray will choose to use various formations to summon evil gods, such as offering sacrifices, and use this power to improve their cultivation. Since some people think that she is unusual, they simply want to hear her opinion. It just so happens that this kind of existence seems to exist in the world, not only us, but also many monks. Demons and evil cultivators are trying to summon that kind of thing out. In order to stop those evil cultivators and demons, countless monks come down every year. Seeing that he is willing to send him a message, Yi Qiao naturally chooses to accept it. We can roughly guess the location of those evil cultivators and devil cultivators. Most of them are gathered in the palace, and the others are also in the mansions of princes and generals. If the evil cultivators and the demons want to make trouble, those high-ranking figures are the most likely to be found. It is almost the same as Yi Qiao's guess, but the exact location needs to be provided by these monks. She is going to continue sit back and enjoy the benefits, and wait for them to investigate clearly, then take her personal brigade to encircle and suppress. Zhou Xiu talked a lot, and his mouth was almost dry. He rubbed his hands and asked, I don't know what you think. Yi Qiao suddenly realized, smiled a little, and said with admiration, young man, remember. Seeing that she was finally about to pass on the experience of those who had experienced it, everyone turned their heads and looked over. All looked slightly positive. You remember. Yi Qiao patted the boy closest to him earnestly, under the expectant eyes of the other party. Don't worry about what you remember, just remember. Hey, it's over. I'm tired after walking all day, so I'll go lie down for a while. After Yi Qiao finished speaking, she bent down and pulled Xiao Qi's head without looking back. She quickened her pace a little, fearing that she would be beaten if she walked too slowly. Chevron_left. I saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 176. Ha 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 ha. I found a quiet place and saw no one around. Yi Qiao hugged Xiao Qi and laughed so hard that tears almost came out. KFC could see that persecuting this group of little sheep who had never seen the world really made her very happy. Yi Qiao smiled to herself for a long time before she took out the jade slip and contacted Elder Zhao. She coughed twice, and replied under Elder Zhao's questioning, I'm in a team. There are many evil spirits at the intersection of the two realms. During the day, they will also try to approach monks to find opportunities. There is such a thing. Elder Zhao understood. These evil spirits are difficult to deal with. If you encounter them, just avoid them. If it is really unavoidable, we will deal with it. Those evil spirits can't be dealt with cleanly at all, and they breed in dark places. They're afraid of fire. Ordinary fire doesn't work, and they need a higher level spiritual fire. There may be no way to deal with other personal encounters. There is a flying fairy sword. The problem is not big. Yi Qiao was thinking about another possibility. Evil spirit, can it be captured? Want to try. But it hides too fast, and it is a thing that will continue to breed. If you want to catch one, you can only wait for the opportunity. The evil will transform, and you can wait for the transformation to try to catch it. Seeing Yi Qiao's weirdness, Xi Song shook his body, unwilling to give up. It didn't focus on this team at first, but it smelled so good. I don't know whose smell it was. The more I thought about it, the more unwilling it was, and followed them all the way. After Yi Qiao said a lot of nonsense, they gave up the idea of testing her, and their tolerance for her increased greatly, and all kinds of tricky requests from Yi Qiao were actually satisfied. The couple next door slept in the open, and the one who had been on the road all night cried with envy. Yi Qiao noticed the evil creature that followed all the way, and it still followed after it arrived in the human world, which made her confirm that this thing is conscious, but not high. After driving for several days, everyone except Yi Qiao was disheartened. Zhou Xiu, why don't you follow us closely? Find a place to rest first. Yi Qiao checked the news on the jade slips, and all the brothers had gathered at the palace, so she was told to go there too. Yi Qiao replied, most of the evil cultivators are gathered in the palace, many monks should rush to you, pay attention to safety. After returning, she found that Zhou Xiu was trying to look at her jade slip. Yi Qiao covered it, gave him the back of the head unceremoniously, and snorted coldly, young man, you actually want to see news about your grandma's jade slip. Zhou Xiu, who are you communicating with? Yi Qiao saw that the other monks also looked over. She said earnestly, of course it is to chat with the young guy. I think your grandma was also the #1 beauty in the cultivation world. As she talked, she was going to start a conversation. Fan Yao thought about the words of that year. Zhou Xiu felt a headache when he heard it, and walked away clutching his head. Seeing that Yi Qiao passed the test, after turning off the jade slip, she glanced at the evil creature hiding in the corner waiting for an opportunity, and the corner of her lips curled into a hook. After realizing that Yi Qiao is very strong, it no longer acts alone, but tries to gather into a human form and devour it at night. Yi Qiao coincides with its idea. Zhou Xiu found an inn and reluctantly settled down. He got up and went upstairs to chat with other people. Yi Qiao saw the evil spirit in the corner after he moved, and followed him upstairs. Sure enough, he was afraid of Yi Qiao approaching. Zhou Xiu was a little uneasy. I feel that thing is still following us. Did Grandma say something? The girl in green asked casually. Do you want to call it so smoothly? He was powerless to complain. No, she is talking about love with someone on the jade slip. Maybe she needs to find us a grandfather. After finishing speaking, he was also silent for a while, and continued to talk about business. I'll find someone to connect with the palace, let's go to the palace tomorrow. Then, that Grandma Li, do you want to take it with you? Zhou Xiu, she looks like she's only at the middle stage of golden core. And her legs don't seem to be very good. His temper is also weird. Thinking of Yi Qiao's torture along the way, his stomach hurts. The evil spirit is very patient, and Yi Qiao also waited for it to take shape. The two of them were more tolerant than the other. She asked Xiao Qi to stare at this evil spirit. Like her, Xiao Qi's consciousness was in the nascent soul stage, and she could detect even the slightest disturbance. After the evil spirit gathered into a human form, Yi Qiao was stunned for a moment, then smiled. No face, just a black shadow. Do you know what it looks like? Xiao Qi was confused. I don't know. Yi Qiao told him kindly. It seems that the stool has become fine. The black shadow was very fast, and rushed up the stairs at once, aiming at those monks. It didn't dare to provoke Yi Qiao, but it was okay to swallow a few monks. Seeing it go up, Yi Qiao followed closely. The black shadow gathered into a shapeless mass, split into 4 or 5, and chased after everyone. Yi Qiao didn't expect it to split up again. She saw that they seemed to be able to hold on for a while, so she didn't move. Do not do it until a lump of stool gathers together. He stretched out his hand, drew his sword and slashed at the black shadow, and the next second it split open, more than doubling in number. Don't chop it. After all, there is a smart person, the girl in green said, pull it together first. They couldn't disperse, so they had to find a way to gather together. They dodged in a panic, afraid of disturbing others. Yi Qiao posted a soundproof note, ordinary people can't see these. They will only see a group of psychopaths jumping up and down and fighting wits with the air. The evil spirits were gathered into a group, and Yi Qiao came out leisurely and reaping the rewards. She pulled out the sword in the mustard bag, but Jun was too recognizable. Only the elders of the 5 sects had been seen by Fei Xianjian. Throwing the sword to the ground, Yi Qiao played with her upper body, and slowly used the Fixian sword as a crutch, then walked into the fighting scene, and said in the tone of someone who has experienced it with sincerity and this evil theory, "You are young. If you don't talk about martial arts like this, you will be. It takes a lot of detours." Her voice was neither high nor low, and it happened to be heard by a group of people. Is this the time to talk about these things? Zhou Xiu knew that she liked to babble, but she never expected that she would talk about these useless truths at this time. Seeing Yi Qiao chattering endlessly and showing a tendency to continue, the evil voice said ferociously, "To shut up." It was so noisy, he recognized it. This person was the one who slapped himself to the ground when he wanted to sneak attack, and burned him to death with a ball of fire. Kill her. Xi Chong's pitch-black eyeballs were filled with darkness. Full of malice, he rushed towards Yi Qiao, and kept repeating this sentence, "Go to hell." Yi Qiao used the sword as a crutch, and knocked it down hard and fast. He was startled and just wanted to remind Yi Qiao, when she saw the evil spirit that went mad was drawn out by her sword. She snorted and sighed, "Look at it, you're young. That's what happens if you don't respect the old and love the young." For a moment, the others swallowed their saliva in unison. Fortunately, they didn't offend her before. Chevron